beautiful conclusion at the very beginning. I can do that. Tommy Pham had a walk-off single in the 11th inning, and everybody was really happy and jumping up and down and all that other stuff. But, yeah, wow. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Pirates 5, Yankees 4 in that 11th inning. Jack Suwinski was the Manfred runner, stole third, and Pham, after having gone over his previous 19, singled into left to finally end the game. And there it is. That's all you want to hear, right? That's it. Everything's just okie dokie. Yeah, no, of course it isn't. You're talking about a team that's off to a 3-7 start that had its brains pretty much blown out in the previous two games against those Yankees that tried really, really hard, symbolically speaking, to hand a sweep to New York by handing New York 3 runs in the 9th inning to tie this one yesterday, all after 2 outs. I mean, there's not a thing that hasn't gone wrong for the Pirates, with the notable exception, and I mean these in isolation, of Paul Skeens' 2 starts, Andrew Heaney's excellent start yesterday. 7 innings, 1 run, 5 hits, 10 strikeouts against the major's most explosive lineup, against 1 walk. There aren't enough superlatives for how he pitched, especially coming off what had really been a pretty rough spring training. But I say this a lot about the spring, not just to not pay too much attention to what happens there, but to really not pay attention when it's a veteran, and then to doubly not pay attention when it's a lefty pitcher. They just figure things out. They're just messing around down there. But everything else is just so bad. Even the good is bad. Brian Reynolds, 2-run double. And you remember he's had a handful of clutch hits so far. But what you don't think about is that he's off to a 182 start. Jack Suwinski and Ji-hwan Bae were the standouts, really, of spring training, speaking of ignoring all that stuff. Jack's been lost, and Bae's already gotten lost. Pham came through with a big hit, as I mentioned, but as I also mentioned, he hadn't done anything in forever, and if you listen to him here talking about that moment, you get the sense of what he'd been going through.
Felt great, man. I've been struggling, of course. Finally hit the ball hard, finally found Barrow. It's a good thing when you find Barrow as a hitter.
How about Ryan Borucki? He'd been the only reliever, really, other than Dennis Santana, who you could count on. He'd been actually very, very good for most of the early portion of the season. Just blows up in that 9th inning. They got a win, but nothing really was corrected other than, again, Heaney pitching the way he did. The Pirates went 24 straight plate appearances without a hit until Pham's hit. 24 in a row. That's really close to the equivalent of a no-hitter. The team can't hit. All the attention in this would have been on Borucki and or the back end of the bullpen in general failing because David Bednar's in the minors. Colin Holderman got put on one of those IL assignments that you can kind of raise an eyebrow at yesterday. But as much as I had been concerned, and I was one of the few, I think, that was, judging by the conversations that we all have in our various commenting forums before the season, that the bullpen was going to be a problem. What I was sure of was that the offense was going to be bad. I didn't know that it was going to be this bad. But add on to that, more fielding issues, more weird managerial decisions by Derek Shelton, and then just the general feel of the place on opening weekend, beginning with the boos of Shelton, the airplane carrying the message, "Sell the team, Bob," overhead, the video that went viral of those fans accosting Nutting on the rotunda, the chants, the "Sell the team" chants that took place. This is all stuff I had told you on Friday's show was going to happen, but I couldn't have known that it was going to happen in a blowout where the Pirates were embarrassing themselves and then the next day didn't look any better. And this one yesterday looked like it was going to be the worst of the three until the Pirates were able to bring home the phantom guy at second base. This isn't good, guys. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. This isn't good. Or maybe it is good. Maybe it gets, whether it's Nutting or whoever, to move on something. But I don't see that. Not for a while, anyway. Ben Cherington, usually on Sundays, when he's at a game at PNC Park, he'll do his standard radio show, the weekly thing that general managers in the organization have been doing all the way back to Joel Brown. Actually, used to just be called the Joel Brown Show, for those of you who go way back. Well, he did his show with Joe Block, the team announcer, who is, of course, paid by the team. That's not a shot at him. That's just a fact. That's who signs his checks. Joe did a fine job with his interview within the natural and expected limitations that he'd have. And then Cherington didn't do anything else, even though he usually will stop near an elevator by the press box after he's done to meet with the media who are there in the press box. Nope. Nothing of the kind, and it was known, it was planned that he wouldn't be there. Good stuff, huh? Never forget. It always starts at the top and then trickles down. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Aaron Novella, who says, "Hey, DK, I'm wondering, in light of all of the home opening weekend events, from fans jeering Bob Nutting, the rotunda, the Clemente wall controversy, and even the Yankees commentary calling out the Pirates' mismanagement, what will it actually take for Nutting to sell? Do you foresee the possibility of such an outcry from the city and baseball community as a whole to make such change, because the displeasure of the fan base is almost seemingly unprecedented? When is enough enough?" Aaron, you bring up a lot of different things here, and I'm going to go through them individually, okay? You mentioned the fans jeering Nutting on the rotunda. I'm going to get more specific on that. I recognize a lot of the faces in that video. They are a lot of the same protesters who had been marching through downtown over the winter. It turns out, in hindsight, that their efforts were not for nothing, even though their numbers weren't exactly enormous, because they really got all of this anger centralized, I believe, for lack of a better word. They were the ones, for example, a couple of them anyway, who contributed to getting the airplane that you didn't mention that flew overhead beforehand that said, "Sell the team, Bob." They also were the ones who were suggesting to people, both on social media and out on Federal Street before the game, to chant "Sell the team," which ended up happening. How much longer will that continue? How much? I have no idea. I have no way of knowing that. The Clemente wall thing, I have some things to say about this that won't be very popular, okay? Just, if you don't think you can handle it, go ahead and plug your ears. There can't be a sports franchise anywhere that does more to revere an athlete, current or former, than what the Pirates do for Clemente. And there absolutely can't be a city anywhere that does more in the same regard. I really believe that people don't understand how many things in our city, in that ballpark, are named for Clemente. How many different statues and icons and paintings, and it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. Clemente's presence is everywhere in our city. And that is perfectly fine. I'm the last one to complain about that. The last one. I'm born and raised here. I get it. But this specific thing is a little Clemente wall piece that was put onto padding in 2022 because they didn't have any ads to put there. So they just put that there instead, figuring it's better than leaving it blank. And hey, let's just do another thing to honor Clemente. So this year, a sponsor finally comes along. The space is there. They sold the space. Big bleeping deal. Should they or could they have contacted the Clemente family? I guess. It's just, come on. The wall itself is known as the Clemente Wall. That was a thing that Greg Brown started, but it's something that just became universal. It's not anything else. It's got the 21s all over it. And this is the part that you really won't like. But, Roberto Clemente Jr. puts out a couple of statements this week that came across as kind of bitter about the Pirates. And I was kind of waiting for him to say what I knew he wanted to say, and he did it at the end of the second statement that he put out yesterday, in which he said something along the lines of how he wishes that the family and the team would have more of a relationship or something. God, you guys are going to hate me for this, but it's actually the truth. They're looking for what you think they're looking, and they haven't been all that successful in their various businesses. I'm not hearing this from the Pirates. I've known this for years. And to seize upon this, instead of just contacting the Pirates and saying, hey, what's up with that? And then to use it for that, I'm sorry. I know what the name means around here. Again, I know it better than most. I've known the Clemente sons. I've known the wonderful, beautiful Vera Clemente before her passing. But they're human. Okay, and that comes with flaws, and I didn't like the way this was handled on any part of it. All right, what's your other thing here before I keep burying myself? For being honest with you, by the way. Oh, Yankees commentary. Oh, this one's really easy. Who cares? Who cares what anybody on a New York broadcast has to say about anything? This reminds me of when people say, boy, I sure hope this gets national attention. What do you care about national attention? Where do you think the pressure's going to come from? The pressure's either going to come from Pittsburgh or it's not coming at all. If it gets onto ESPN, that is not a bigger deal than it getting onto some local TV station. It's just not. Not with this specific scenario. And absolutely not in New York on a New York broadcast. Now, I only happened to hear just a tiny sampling of what it was that those guys said, whatever their names were. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that none of them called for a salary cap or anything that would, help in evening the playing field, at least the financial playing field between the two teams that they were watching and expressing all this. Oh my God, look at this terrible team and what an awful situation. Guess what? There's something they could do about it. They're not going to lift a pinky finger. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.